Jason was my son, and today is his birthday.
You gonna last on something?
I don't know if I'm gonna last all week.
We ain't gonna stand for no weirdness out here.
Now, if you were a flavor of ice cream, what would it be?
Rock and roll.
You drowned. You never paid any attention. Look what you did to him. Look what you did to him.
You neglected to mention that downtown they call this place Camp Blood.
Counselors weren't paying any attention. They were making love while that young boy drowned.
It's got a death curse.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her. Don't let her get away, Mommy. Don't let her live.
I won't, Jason. I won't.
1, 2, ready, come for you. 10. Help me, please. Save me from Freddy. 9.
You are going to get some sleep tonight if it kills me.
8.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
7.
Where's your past?
Screw your past.
6.
Come to Freddy.
5.
You won't need a stretcher up there. You need a mop.
4.
Please, God.
This is God.
3.
Morality sucks.
2.
Hey, Anthony. No running in the hallway.
1.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
Hello everyone, welcome to Kill the Cast. My name is Jerry, and I am joined by the ever-quotable Jay.
The boy, is he dead too? Who? The boy, Jason. Jason? In the lake. The one who attacked me. The one who pulled me underneath the water. Man, we didn't find any boy. But then, this is God.
Well, that was an interesting combination.
Well, that's the best I got, man. These are lines that mix together.
I was curious if you were going to try to blend.
Also a terrible Freddy impression, so I apologize to anybody who had to hear that.
You did a good cop impression.
Yeah. Better than Nancy's acting. And, of course, joining us is the Silent Hill biker himself, Kenneth.
So,
not much.
I need some Advil, man.
Why did you not take some Advil before we got on?
Because my head didn't start hurting until I fucking got on here.
Well, go take Advil. I'll ask Jay what he's been up to this week.
All right.
Jay, what have you been up to this week?
Working, mostly. Watched a couple movies we're about to talk about. As far as new movies go, I watched Incident in a Ghostland. That was fucking phenomenal.
Yep, I haven't had a chance to watch it, but I want to watch it so bad.
Well, it's there for you to watch whenever you want.
I know. I'm hopefully I'm gonna watch it this week. I've just been busy doing a bunch of shit and have not been able to concentrate on a movie that much.
Besides that, I converted from MoviePass to AMC A-List because MoviePass decided to shoot itself in the foot.
Yeah, MoviePass will not make it out of 2018. I don't even know if it's going to make it to October.
I don't know, but I don't know. So for anybody who has MoviePass, a while ago, it was a $10 a month service where you could see one movie a day. You couldn't see IMAX or 3D or anything like that, and you could only see each movie once. But it was still better than paying to go see a movie every time you wanted to go. And I was using it to watch pretty much all the major horror releases that were coming out this year. Lately, they've switched to peak pricing, which means that if you go see a movie on the weekend, you could be charged up to an extra $8 per ticket, which completely eliminates the purpose of using the service in the first place, in my opinion. I paid for a free movie when I go, not a half-off movie. And they started blocking big release stuff like Mission Impossible until it's in like its last week. So that's combination of stuff made me switch to AMC A-List. If you have an AMC near you, I'm going to plug them for free here. $20 a month. You get to see 3 movies a week, but there's absolutely no limits on when you see them or what their format is. So you can go see 3 IMAX movies, which is an $18 to $20 ticket on its own, for the $20 a month. So I switched that because I have an AMC close enough to me that it makes it worth it. So the extra $10 a month So that's pretty much it. I've been slacking on the news from the news episodes.
Me
because
too.
We're dealing with life shit, so me and Jerry will get back to that soon. Hopefully, the next week we'll drop a nice big one.
Yeah, or mess with the format. We'll mess around. We just kind of do stuff on our YouTube and podcast when life allows. We don't have strict schedules. Like, this is a hobby. Like, yeah, we want to be like as on time as possible, but at the same time, we both got shit going on. That's how life is. Kenneth, I heard you're back.
Yeah.
All right. So what have
Who told you?
What do you mean? Who told me?
You told me. What? I have been.
Did you take
doing a whole lot?
Advil or drugs?
So they wouldn't work that fucking quick. Oh, by the way, but I
ether it would.
I did watch this documentary on DMT, and I really want to try that shit.
How different is DMT from like just doing acid?
From what I understand, a whole world of difference.
Huh. I'll have to look into it.
Otherworldly, other planes of existence, all kinds of shit from what you see.
Be careful, that's how you get fucking demons.
Hey, whatever.
Hey, demons, it's your boy back with that DMT.
I mean, I am totally down from what these people described in this documentary.
Oh, shit. Took DMT.
You hear to hear first, kids. Kill the cast. Go do some drugs.
Do DMT. Watch DBZ.
Hell, I put the headphones on first and y'all can record it.
Let's do it together and we'll just videotape it.
Hey, that works too, man. That'd be great for our first all-together outing.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I end up killing a hobo, then we have to hide the body, and then 5 years from now, his hobo's like brother shows up and tries to kill us all, and we're trying to figure that shit out.
Fuck yeah, that sounds like a great movie.
What if we kill the hobo, but we put him in a time capsule that we dig up 20 years later?
I'm good with that.
So have you been doing anything else, Kenneth, besides dreaming of DMT?
Actually, no, not really. I mean, daughter started her first day of school last week, so she was pretty excited about that. And she got into jiu-jitsu, and she got back into Girl Scouts. So it's been pretty busy for the past week or so. Other than that, not that I can think of. I might be forgetting something. Am I forgetting something?
Why would I know if you're forgetting things?
Because I talk to you more than I talk to anybody else.
That's true. I do talk to you like at least every other day.
Yeah.
I don't know. As for me, I am pursuing a new job that if I get is going to be life-changing, so that's good. Yeah. I went and saw Puppet Master, The Littlest Reich last night in theaters at an early screening that Fangoria presented here in Nashville with Rick Prince, who was a puppeteer on the movie, and the movie gets 2 gigantic thumbs up. I'd give it 3 gigantic thumbs up, but my dick's not big enough to be gigantic.
Not even close.
Not even close. It's pretty pathetic. I once sent someone a dick picture and they threatened to call the FBI on me for sending child pornography. I went and saw it. It's absolutely fantastic. There is a spoiler-free review on our YouTube channel you can check out. And if you want a spoiler-filled one, there is about an hour-long podcast I did with me, Bill Casanelli from Horror Mafia, and Scott Crawford from Podcast by the Cemetery, where we went fully in-depth, all kind of spoilers, talked about how awesome it was. I highly recommend seeing this movie. It comes out on VOD, I think like August 17th, and comes out on Blu-ray in September, Blu-ray and DVD. I 100% recommend this movie. It feels like watching the first time? Like the very first time? It feels like the first time you watch an 80s movie in 2018. And it was awesome. It's got Officer Dangle from Reno 911 is the main guy. And
really?
Yes, and he's fantastic. And,
oh man!
It's got Barbara Crampton in it.
Is it a serious thing or is it joking around?
No, that's the thing. Like, this movie is a serious movie, but it does have humor in it. It's kind of like watching the Hatchet movies. The same kind of thing, except...
First one or the other ones?
All 4 of them.
Oh, okay.
I like how it balances story and humor. It's not a full-on comedy, but it has comedy throughout.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Is what I'm trying to say. So definitely go fucking watch that movie. It was fantastic. And tonight, guys, we are getting into our first episode in Horror Coliseum, Freddy vs. Jason, which will be an ongoing, long-running series.
Yes.
That looks like it's going to be, at this current moment, is 8 episodes long, and there could be an optional 9th where we kind of wrap up the Friday the 13th series. But tonight we start with Friday the 13th versus A Nightmare on Elm Street. We have already reviewed A Nightmare on Elm Street, so if you want to hear specifics on that whole movie, you can check that out. But we'll be going into some detail here also.
Actually, what I think you should stop right now and listen to our Nightmare on Elm Street, so that way you can hear how our minds have changed between now and then.
That's a good point.
Because I'm sure there's going to be some things that have changed in comparison to then.
We must remind the fans that these Horror Coliseums are a look at the technical aspects of the movie. So whereas I, personally, on a subjective level, would choose Nightmare on Elm Street over Friday the 13th every single time, I actually went into it completely, as unbiased as I can be. I don't think it's possible for people to completely make their brains unbiased, but I went as biased as I can, and so maybe people might be surprised by what I have to say.
Yeah, I agree. I did the same thing where I tried to really take out anything that I'll put it this way. Actually, instead of taking out things that bothered me in Nightmare on Elm Street, I actually decided to focus on more things that bother me in Friday the 13th to kind of balance that out. So I was stricter on Friday the 13th to balance it out. So
that's cool. I'm interested.
So we're going to start with Friday the 13th.
All right, let me pull my scores up for that. Got it?
All right, so first we're going into story, and I'm going to kick this off. I give the story for Friday the 13th a 7 out of 10. The story, while very basic, works really well. It is a revenge story, and that's always a good time. And the twist ending is actually a really good reveal. But after you see this once, the story kind of matters less and less every time you watch it, and you kind of realize that the story isn't anything fantastic. It's good, it's okay, but it's not going to blow you away. It's like getting a hand job on the first date when you expected a blowjob. You know what I'm saying? So I gave it a 7. Jay, what did you give it?
I gave it an 8, basically for the same reasons as you. I just scored it a little bit higher because, like you said, it does work pretty well, I think. There's little things that are dropped throughout the movie that allude to the ending, but there's not enough information for you to really figure out what's going on, which is nice. But overall, yeah, I think it's just a decent, there's not much wrong with it, but it's not completely blow me away, but it's solid enough in my mind to warrant an 8.
All right. Kenneth?
I gave it a 7. I mean, because, you pretty much said it. It's a hand job, not a blow job. So, that's where I'm sticking.
It's satisfying. It ends like I get the happy ending. It's just
I imagine at the time when it came out, before there was a shit ton of revenge type deals that like what we have now. I imagine it had more of an impact back in 1980, but now, I mean,
oh yeah. Well, here's the thing. When I saw this as a kid, it was straight up getting anal sex on the first date. But as you get older, you realize that a pair of titties from National Geographic is like a Jenna Jameson porno when you're 15. When you're
talking about, I like National Geographic now.
I know you like them pancakes. Man,
whatever works.
So all right, we go into character development. I also gave this a 7. I don't feel like there is that much development for the characters, but they are established. And I feel like you do know their personalities with having it shoved in your face. And all in all, I think they all seem very, very natural. Kenneth?
Same. I gave it a 7. Hand job versus a blow job.
All right, Jay. That's the best analogy ever, apparently.
This is going to just continue. I gave it an 8 for the same reasons you guys gave it a 7. I felt like they were all pretty solid. It's pretty much the same reasons that I gave the story an 8. There wasn't anything like crazy amazing, but everybody was easily established. All their personality traits seemed out there on display. You could figure out, how people would react and how they are as characters from the time we spend with them on screen.
All right. Pacing and editing. I also gave this a 7. I think the movie moves right along with the kills spread throughout. If I can fucking talk today, I've been talking all day. With the kills spread out throughout the movie, it never feels like it gets boring. It just constantly keeps going and going and going. And I never feel like it ever gets dull. Jay.
Same. I gave it an 8 though. Because apparently I feel everything is 1 point higher than everybody else.
Like I said, it starts
pretty
out
hard. Nice and easy. Two kids get it off camera right from the get-go, and then we jump ahead almost 20 years, right? 10, 15 years, something like that. Like that was supposed to be a year after Jason drowned in 58, and then it's like 72 at the start of this or something like that.
72? No, it's not that.
Does it take place in the year it was produced?
I believe so. I believe it takes place in 81 or 81.
So it's 30 years afterwards?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Well, either way, we jump ahead to them opening the camp, and then that moves right along, and we get right into the next set of deaths. So, like you said, I think it flows really well.
Friday the 13th is not a series that's ever really worried about the continuity. What the
continuity?
The continuity. Pulling a Jeremy.
Continuity.
That's the thing.
Very little continuity in this movie.
It's a thing Jeremy says. I had to make fun of him real quick. They never really worry about that in this series, and it's one of the few series that I rarely ever see anyone actually give a shit.
Well, I don't think they thought they were getting a sequel.
Well, that in general, but yeah, as they even when they continue and they know they're getting sequels, they don't ever seem to care.
Yeah,
but anyway, Kenneth, pacing and editing.
I got to touch a titty, so I gave it a 5. I mean, I'm just gonna keep this analogy. So if I got a 5, I mean, I at least got to touch a titty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep with this. You know what I'm saying? But no, with the 5, man. I mean, there were a couple of places like Jay said. I mean, it started off heavy, but there was a couple of places where I just felt like it kind of just drug along. You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, okay, let's get to it, because the further you get down the line through the series, and I hate to compare, but it picks up faster. I think the pacing's better. But there was just a couple of places that I just felt like it drug along a little bit too much. But otherwise, it was pretty good. So, I mean, I gave it a 5.
All right. Atmosphere. I finally leave the world of 7. I give Atmosphere a 9. I think this is where the movie really shines. The mystery, the music, the look. This is by far, to me, one of the best things in the movie. I think this movie truly has an amazing atmosphere. Kenneth.
Another hand job. I gave it a 7. I mean, it was decent. The atmosphere was pretty good. I mean, but there was it was areas where it was just like, I kind of feel the same way about it as I did about like Sleepaway Camp. It was summer campy, yeah, but at the same time, it wasn't I didn't feel creeped out as much as I would have liked to. So it didn't give me that extreme creepy vibe as much as I would have liked. So, I mean, I gave it a 7, so it's still pretty decent. 7?
I thought you said you gave it a 5. No, you gave pacing editing 5. Fuck, sorry, I was thinking about the hand job. Jay, what did you...
I'm also thinking about hand jobs. I would like one right now, please. Scenery, where are we on? We're on Atmosphere.
Atmosphere.
I gave it an 8. It was set up as a bunch of counselors repairing and opening a summer camp, and that's exactly what it felt like. It felt like a nice small town with, the town crazy and the one cop who takes his job a little bit too seriously and thinks he's top shit. The small town diner, like it all fit together really well to build this idea of what the area around Camp Crystal Lake looks like and the camp itself.
Very nice. So now we move on to scenery set design. Once again, I give it a 9. She let me hit. I had to wear a condom, but I got to hit. And I don't really think there's any true flaws here. I think everything looks fantastic. Like Jay just said, it does feel like a camp. It does feel like a small town. The only reason I don't give it a 10 is because, honestly, they're getting off really easy. They don't have to do anything crazy in their scenery set design. So therefore, I didn't feel okay with giving them a 10. I felt like there was no, like, it's not like they had to try really hard to let me have sex, but, you know, they're going to make me wear a condom. Had they had done something a little extra to spice it up, maybe I would have been able to hit it raw dog, but I couldn't. So, back to you, Jay, scenery set design.
That got a 9 for me for some of the same reasons I mentioned for the atmosphere. And I realized I kind of talked more about the set design than the atmosphere during the atmosphere category. So just to piggyback off that really quick, like when the storming was going on, I felt like that really set the tone for the buildup of the finale. And so I thought that was good. But as far as the scenery set design goes, yeah, like I said in the last category when I should have been talking about atmosphere, it looks like it's supposed to look. So, but it just like there's not enough of it to be perfect, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you. Kenneth.
I gave it a 7, and it was because I focused a little more than you did on the same reasons. Is because, like I said, I mean, there was no, you know, I know it's difficult because I know what they did to make the movie. So it's like, you know, going into it and knowing the fact that they basically just went out there and started filming where it was. You know, they basically had everything there for them. All they needed was the cameras and the actors. So, you know, knowing that, that's the reason why I gave it a 7. I mean, it still looked good, and it still had, you know, and it obviously was a summer camp. But so for all that, I mean, that's the reason why it got even higher than it did. But it still wasn't the greatest thing in the world to me. I've definitely seen better.
Okay. We move on to acting. I gave acting an 8. Most of the time, the acting is pretty spot on. While there's really nothing except for Betsy Palmer as Pamela Voorhees that really goes above and beyond, her acting does blow me away. And everyone else is just, they're solid. At no point do I feel like nobody takes me out of the movie for their acting. And to me, if you have no weak players and only one amazing player, you still did a fantastic job. So I gave it an 8. Kenneth.
Same. I gave it an 8. I mean, I thought the characters were pretty good. They knew their roles. They were the actors knew their roles. They were doing pretty good. Obviously, Betsy Palmer. I mean, so overall, I mean, you know, like the cop. You know what I'm saying? The king shit cop on the motorcycle. You know, I thought what he was trying to do was pretty funny. You know, everybody else. I mean, the crazy thing is this type of movie pretty much sets up, you know, the stereotype of a horror movie like this. And I think that all of them, you know, do that fairly well, especially for, you know, it being early on and setting it up. I
agree, Jay.
Acting, I gave an 8. Oddly enough, this movie and Nightmare on Elm Street have early performances from pretty big actors. We have Kevin Bacon in this one and Johnny Depp in Nightmare on Elm Street, so that's kind of fun. But yeah, like you said, Betsy Palmer, when she's actually on screen and is giving her little monologue, is fucking fantastic. Everyone else was solid enough that it didn't detract from anything. So easy 8 there.
All right, we move on to special effects. I gave it an 8. I think they all look really good for an early 80s movie. In HD, you can, of course, see some flaws, but to me, they're all acceptable. I think the special effects here look better than they do, you know, a year later in The Burning. So I think Tom Savini did a great job, so I gave it a solid 8. Jay?
Also an 8. I thought the arrow through the neck when he's like on the bed, that was really good. A couple of slit throats, that was really good, and the ending decapitation was very well done for the time, in my opinion. So yeah, good 8, good solid 8 there.
All right, Kenneth, I feel like Kenneth's about to drop another hand.
Feel a 6. He's gonna be like, I gave it a 6.
Oh, you think he's gonna go to a 6?
I don't like knives and throats.
Okay, Kenneth, what's your score?
Hand job.
It's a 7. I called it. Bam.
Yeah, I gave it a 7. I mean, there were a couple of them that were really awesome. Like Jay said, the arrow through the throat. That I love that gag. I mean, that was a real good one. But there were a couple of others that I didn't think were executed as well. Seeing dude up on the with the arrow and everything going through him. And for some reason, I just do not like that scene in the shower where chick takes the axe to the face. I just do not like it. I have never liked it. I don't like the way, I don't like the cinematography on it. I don't like the way the whole aspect of it. I think it was Tom Savini explains it, that when the axe comes down and it hits the light, it's supposed to give it some substance. I just didn't like that. I didn't like none of that. And I think that's
Cunningham, you hack.
I mean, so I just didn't care for it. That was one of those that I mean, it looked good when it was in her face, but other than that, I just didn't like it.
When I was younger, I loved that scene. I thought the axe hitting the light was so great and everything. And I still like that scene, but now I notice that the axe hitting the light makes it look like they're not swinging the axe that hard at all.
Right. Because you figure that light would fucking goddamn, if you were swinging that axe the way you'd want to, especially to go into somebody's skull, that light would swing up and hit the damn ceiling. And I mean, just overall, I just didn't dig it. The only thing that I liked about that scene is, to me, that was probably the creepiest on atmosphere scene, was that bathroom. Because I've been in bathrooms at campgrounds like that before, and it's creepy as shit in there. Other than that, I just didn't care for it. And I also I wish that we could have seen the actual kill of dude that was above Kevin Bacon. That dude's dead body when the blood drops down. I wish we could have seen his kill.
Speaking of kills, let's go into kills and gore. I gave this a nice classic Kenneth 7, aka the hand job of doom. Some really great ones, including, of course, the Kevin Bacon neck stab. But I want to point out, while it's not a on-screen kill, much like Sleepaway Camp, it is a great after shot. And that's when the guy is hung to the door with arrows. While, you don't get to see anything close up or anything, I just think it looks fucking awesome, the dude being hung up on the door with arrows. And that scene alone is one that it's probably like my favorite scene in the movie. Kenneth, kills and gore.
I actually gave the kills an 8, which is odd because it's higher than the special effects. But I think the imaginativeness of them was great. Just the execution wasn't done as well. So if that makes sense of me splitting the two of them, like, going back to the dude that was, fucked up above Kevin Bacon, the idea of how he died, because I mean, if you pause it right there, you can see how he died. The idea of that was great. The arrow through the throat, the idea of that was great. Like you were saying, dude hung up on the door. I thought the idea of the death was fucking, I mean, that's just brutal. You know what I'm saying? So the imaginativeness of the deaths was really, really cool. It's just I didn't think all of them were executed well.
Okay, Jay.
I gave it a 7, and I gave it a 7 because while there were some really fun, inventive kills, there was also I should have wrote it down, but I noticed it while I was watching it. There's 2 or 3 kills that were pretty much just somebody getting their throat slit, and I was like, okay, now you're getting a little repetitive here. Let's switch it up. So that's why it got a 7 from me. They were all good, but some of them were a little repetitive in nature.
I will give you that, and the only reason I'm even accepting of so many throat kills is because at the end of the movie, when you realize it's Pamela Voorhees, and it's grandmother of the year, even though she's only a mom, but she looks like a grandmother of the year. Like, my grandmother straight up has that haircut. My other grandmother used to have that haircut. So I
totally could see my grandmother. May she rest in peace. I could totally see my grandmother wearing a sweater like that.
Yeah, dude, I think we should get your mom one.
Yeah, my mom would be like, what?
She'd rock it. She would rock it. I want to get your
just
mom
because of her love, but shit, my mom's hair ain't gray yet. So just because of her love for Friday the 13th, she'd probably rock it.
That's true. All right, we move on to the monster, aka the killer. I gave this a 7. Of course, it's not Jason yet. It's his mom who runs the show here. She does a fine job, but it's something that only works once. There's nothing iconic about it. It's a great twist, but it doesn't have longevity. So I could only give it a 7 because it does fulfill its job. Jay?
So I gave it an 8, and I gave it an 8 because the setup is really good. So you have the opening scene, which takes place a year after her kids die. Then you have the exposition when the chick's getting a ride from the dude, and he's like, oh, then it caught on fire, and those 2 kids died, and he's going over all these things. And then by the end of the movie, you realize that anytime anybody steps foot on fucking Camp Crystal Lake, she goes batshit and murders them all. So I think it's that setup mixed with the reveal. Like, yeah, the reveal is a one-time thing, but I still think that and the fact that she's doing it because her kid died is just altogether. That's why I gave it an 8.
Fair enough. Kenneth?
Hand job.
All right, the classic 7.
Yeah, gave it a 7, man. I mean, granted, pretty much the same things you said. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was cool, it was whatever, but, it wasn't like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I mean, it's just not, it wasn't monster. You get what I mean?
Well, it's monster or killer.
Right, but, I don't know. It just wasn't, like, I get it, I understand it. You know what I'm saying? I understand her revenge thing and all the rest of that stuff, but it just wasn't, I don't know, it just didn't have the solid, butt sex fucking impact.
Fair enough. All right, we move on to Hero. I gave the Hero a 6. I've always thought Alice was bland. She's okay, but she's nothing special to me. There are better final girls in the series. The next movie has a way better final girl. And Alice like is just generically happens to be the last one surviving. You know what I mean? Like, it just, so while she fits the role of a final girl, I don't see anything special about her. Kenneth?
I actually gave her an 8. I liked her.
Really? You got a blowjob from her?
Yeah, I did. I liked her, man.
Blowjob from her.
Yeah, she did it for me.
Titties.
I mean, I liked her. You know what I'm saying? I think she fit into the final girl, aspect of it. I mean, I liked her. You know what I'm saying?
All right, Jay.
I also gave her an 8. She was pretty average up until the end when she realized what was going on, and then she dug deep and Super Saiyan'd it up and was like, all right, fuck her, axe to the head then, if that's what it takes. So I just, I enjoyed her change. I mean, I guess it could have been done a little bit better over time, but I like the way that she took control of the situation when she realized how dire it actually was, and so that's why I gave her an 8.
All right, well, we move on to score soundtrack, and I'm going to use a song to have y'all guess what my rating. Oh, baby, I like it raw. Oh, baby,
10?
I like it raw. That's right. I went in raw,
yeah,
dog.
Totally butt sex, I'm telling you.
You know what? I would say it's equal. A 10 can either be butt sex, but if you're not in butt sex, it can also be, no condom fucking. I'm down with no condom fucking for a 10. And that's what happened. I went in raw. The soundtrack to this is fucking iconic. It really pumps you up throughout the movie. When it wants it to be mysterious, it gives that nice vibe. And then when shit starts going down, it knows when to pump you up. I love the soundtrack for this movie. Jay, go ahead.
So I gave it a 7. I thought it was fine. I thought the music, like the actual score part of it, was done well enough. I don't feel like any of the music itself was enough that I couldn't pick out a Friday the 13th song if you played it for me out of 3. But the iconic kill 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 ma 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 was invented for this movie, and that's lasted for 12 movies after it, and so that's part of why it got a 7 for me. But I thought the rest of the music was just okay. Like, it wasn't anything to write home about.
Wow. Kenneth.
I already said mine.
score soundtrack?
Yeah, I said it. I was just like, right when you said yours, I was like, totally butt sex.
Oh, okay. So you're a 10 with me also.
Fuck yeah, man. I mean, damn, it's iconic. It damn, you know what I'm saying? It totally fit the mood. Honestly, I got to say the score added more to the atmosphere than any of the cinematography for me.
Wow.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
Well, I'm with you there. Now we move on to scare factor. I gave this an 8 because this was scary to me as a kid. It was a real person murdering all these people in the woods. The atmosphere, it sucks you in, and the music cues drove my heart rate. So I did rate this based off the fact that this did scare me as a kid, and I could see in the right setting, like I'm saying, if like, say you live somewhere where you've got woods behind you and you get a projector outside and you put on Friday the 13th and, you know...
Like my mom's house.
Yeah, like if you went to like Kenneth's mom's house, or even like my dad's house, like where you're surrounded by woods and you watch this, I could see
your dad's
this
house where I
you
met
out.
you.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah,
that
man.
would have been... Those woods already seemed like an axe murderer lived in there.
Yeah, I was so tore up in front of your house one time.
Oh, my God.
It was awesome.
Remember that time we smoked weed out of that Dr. Pepper can over in the woods?
What the fuck?
I remember
What?
getting a kidney stone at your house.
I had my first kidney stone in that house.
Yeah,
and then I had my second kidney stone in your apartment.
Yep. You remember damn Mark had to come. Was Mark already there, or did he have to come get me to take me to the hospital?
I think he came and got you, but he was already on the way to hang out with us. Because if I remember correctly, wasn't that during the time where we were writing raps for our 3-person rap group?
It may have been.
So I think he was on his way because we had a writing
I had
session.
just gotten done nailing this chick, and then all of a sudden I had a kidney stone, like literally right after I got finished.
Kidney stones, the worst STDs.
Yeah, for real.
It's all a movement. It busts them loose.
Yeah, for real. So I gave it an 8. Kenneth, what did you give scare factor?
I got the scare factor a 9.
Wow.
But I mean, you know, even like I said, even though the atmosphere wasn't that great to me, and the scenery and the set, you know what I'm saying, I didn't really give a high score. Between the score itself and the idea that this story is totally plausible, between those two things, oh yeah. And then if you really try to put yourself in the position of the characters, you know what I'm saying?
It's really strange to me that you gave Scare Factor such a high rating when earlier you said the movie doesn't creep you out.
But like I said, I mean, it's just like I said, the atmosphere didn't creep me out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's hard to describe. It's taking the atmosphere itself, being technical about it, being technical about the atmosphere. That doesn't creep me out. The idea of it is what creeps me out, because it's like, okay, you know, I can be sitting there and I can be watching a movie and I can look at it and I can see it, and you know, it may not be creepy to me at all. You know what I'm saying? I can be watching a fucking anime that looks great and it not be creepy, but the idea of it is scary. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I can get behind that. All right, Jay, Scare Factor.
Scare Factor got a 6. I just don't find it all that scary. It is plausible, but I've always had a hard time being scared by horror movies. I get creeped out.
I don't know, man. You live up in the Pacific Northwest. Think about what it'd be like.
I can be emotionally affected, but I've never actually been... I don't ever remember a time where a horror movie has scared me.
Oh, fuck that, man. When I was a kid, I got tons of them that scared me.
Even then, I'm pretty sure I might be a sociopath. No.
Wait, didn't you have a story about being scared by the movie, by seeing a scene in the movie Misery?
I wasn't scared by it. It freaked me out watching a realistic leg get broke like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was fucked up. But,
right.
I mean, if I lived up where you live, Jay, I'd be even more afraid. Because
I would be afraid of
wilderness.
In the woods. It's my logical brain will not let me be scared by a situation I've literally never heard about in real life.
I'm sorry, dude. The wilderness up there, man, where you live, where the fucking forest is like, it looks like it's alive.
Yeah, you have to drive to get there. I live in the middle of a fucking city.
Well, hell, even then, there's city serial killers too, bro. Jason Takes Manhattan, homie.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Freddy Krueger.
I have a hard time being scared by things, and there wasn't anything in this movie that I would consider particularly scary besides the situation itself, and that's why it still got a 6.
You know what? I bet he rates the scare factor in Nightmare on Elm Street much higher. We'll see. All right.
I have reasons for my ratings, at least. I'm not just willy-nilly.
That is true. You are not willy-nilly. All right, entertainment. I gave it the handjob 7. It just isn't as fun of a watch now as it used to be for me. It's still a good time, but it's not going to be in my, go-to Friday the 13th movies. But it is one that I will say has some of the best atmosphere, and between the soundtrack and all of that, it is something that I will probably watch once a year for the rest of my life. So with that, we'll go to Jay, entertainment.
Entertainment, I gave a 7. Pretty much same reasons as you. It's entertaining. It's not the best Friday, but it's not the worst Friday. Yeah, it's pretty much everything that you said.
All right, Kenneth.
I actually gave it a 9, and it's solely based on my enjoyment of watching it today.
Wow.
Yeah, I watched it today, and, I had a couple of friends come over while I was watching it, and we all just entertained ourselves while we were watching it. You know what I'm saying? And the same time with, their kid, she's 10, and I found the cover your eyes and go to the other room and that kind of stuff. I found that to be fun. I mean, it just reminded me of watching horror movies when I was a kid, or when you're in your early teens, where you and a bunch of your friends get together and they're watching it. And like I said, it was solely based on that, because I enjoyed, sitting down with my friend James and his wife Sheree and telling his kid to go in the other room and cover her eyes or earmuffs or any of the rest of that shit. That whole experience was just fun.
Fair enough. I can get behind that. All right, we move on to rewatchability. Now, entertainment and rewatchability, much like kills, gore, and special effects, they all kind of intertwine, but we separate them because, much like how Kenneth, while he didn't give special effects high, he did actually enjoy the kill, so we rated it slightly different. And that's how I am for entertainment rewatchability. My rewatchability is actually only a 6 compared to my entertainment being a 7. And that's because when I watch Friday the 13th now, I don't think there's anything else new for me to find in that movie. I don't watch it and go, oh, I found a new thing or I saw a new thing. It just hasn't happened in, my past 2 or 3 watches. So when that starts happening, I kind of realized that the rewatchability is starting to go down. So I only gave it a 6. Kenneth.
Give me a hand job.
Okay, 7.
Yeah, I mean it's decent. It's not one. I kind of agree with you. You know what I'm saying? Once you've seen it once or 1,000 times, like probably you and I both have. You know what I'm saying? And probably Jay too. I don't know how many times Jay's seen it, but I know between me and you, Jerry, we've seen it a shitload.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like the rewatchability at this point in time in my life is a lot lower than it used to be, just because, I've seen it so many damn times. I mean, honestly, I probably could have done this podcast without watching the movie. You know what I'm saying? I could have done it and I could have scored it without watching it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like the rewatchability at this current moment in time in my life is a lot more difficult than it used to be. Yeah. Like, for instance, had we not been doing it for the podcast, I probably would not have watched it anytime soon.
Yeah. To be honest, I could have just closed my eyes and thought about it, and I could have watched the movie.
Right. It's like Back to the Future to me. Even though Back to the Future has a little bit, more of an entertaining and whatever else, but it's like Back to the Future to me, man. I can close my eyes and fucking replay the whole goddamn movie.
Fair enough. All right, Jay, rewatchability.
I gave it an 8. So I used to rank this fairly low out of all 12 movies. But after rewatching it, I realized that it is not as low as I remember it being, and so I gave it an 8. It's one I'll probably revisit over a couple of the other ones after rewatching it within kind of objective mind.
I feel like that's how Kenneth and I used to be, where we would definitely watch more. But as you continue to watch it, I think you'll start moving closer to where we're at. So I actually really like that you're in that place where you're like, you know what? This movie's better than I thought it would, and I actually want to rewatch it again. I think that's pretty dope. All right, so pop culture. We are at the last topic. Pop culture, I gave it a 9. I don't feel like you have to explain this. It birthed the franchise, but I take 1 point off of it because when you talk about Friday the 13th, you talk about Jason Voorhees, and at this point, you don't have Jason Voorhees. You've got the kid at the end, you've got the idea of it from the mother, but you do not have Jason. You've got the name, you've got the how the films will be done, how the cinematography will be done, how the script's going to be done. All of that is based in this movie, but you do not have Jason, so I can only give it a 9. Jay.
So I gave it a 10, and I gave it a 10 because while it doesn't have Jason and everybody loves Jason, without it, we wouldn't have a Jason. This movie also set up a ton of tropes that are used in slashers that we still see today. So I just feel like with the fact that it started the franchise, and without it, we wouldn't have had one of the most iconic slashers in horror in general. So that's why I gave it a 10.
Fair enough. Kenneth.
Same thing. I gave it a 10. And the reason why I gave it a 10 is because Friday the 13th is Friday the 13th. Even though the hockey mask and Jason is the main part of the pop culture craze, I still give it a 10 because of the fact that we are now at a position where the pop culture status of the Friday the 13th franchise is so high that everybody knows. It was different in like the mid 90s, you know what I'm saying? But then when Scream came out and you know, at the beginning of the movie, he asks Drew Barrymore, you know, who's the killer in Friday the 13th, and she screams out Jason and gets it wrong, and he says, nope, it was Jason's mother in the first movie. You know what I'm saying? So
I've seen that movie 100 times.
Right, exactly. You know, so at that point, and then as the movies further progressed, when we started getting, you know, absolute atrocities like Jason Goes to Hell, and then Jason X and so on and so forth.
Jason X is phenomenal.
I was fixing to say, I'm not calling Jason X an atrocity. I'm calling Jason Goes to Hell an atrocity. So let me make that clear. But
we're going to skip right to that episode. All right, my ranking.
Right. But as you go on, and then so on and so forth, and then with the remake, man, we all know that everybody that knows anything about Friday the 13th, and hell, people that don't know that it was Jason's mom at the beginning. So now I honestly think that this movie with the rest of the franchise is even more elevated than it used to be.
Fair enough.
So that's the reason I gave it a 10.
All right, guys, let's get down to final scores. So my final score for Friday the 13th ended up being 115 points out of 150. Jay, what was yours?
118, if I did the math right.
I believe you did. And Kenneth?
116, if I did the math right.
All right, so I come in the lowest at 115, and Jay comes in the highest at 118. That's pretty fucking surprising. I'm going to be honest with you.
Well, these are, like, we're literally talking about my two favorite horror series ever.
The crazy thing is how close we all are. We are all in the teens for the hundreds right now. All of us. You and I, Jerry, are 1 point apart, and Jay is only what, 2 points above me?
Yeah.
I mean, so we're literally right in the line of 5 points between us.
Wow, that's a good point. Well, with that
damn
being
close.
Yeah, we are really, really close. All right, so now it's time to get in A Nightmare on Elm Street. So, Nightmare on Elm Street is a movie that we actually have already covered in depth, but we didn't break it down like this. So let's go story. I gave the story an 8. I think the story is great. I just don't think it was executed correctly in the movie. But I will say I think the... man, I just started talking bad about them. I was about to start talking bad about it, and that's when Jay starts coughing.
Oh, sorry. I thought I muted. I didn't hit the button. I'm sorry.
It's like he knew. Anyway, but the ending is just, for this story, is fucking awful. This is a movie where the jumping is great. They do a bunch of flips, but then they belly flop into the water for me. So Jay, story.
Oddly enough, I also gave it an 8. So I kind of watched it, the whole movie, this in mind, with everything we talked about during the Nightmare on Elm Street episode and everything you've made fun of since then. And it's not so much the ending, but it is what you mentioned before, where they don't really clarify the rules of how Freddy operates. And that makes some of the scenes in the movie really, really silly, especially like when her mom dies. It's just everything that happens just doesn't make any sense. So with that in mind, I gave it an 8.
All right, Kenneth.
Same thing. I gave it an 8. I mean, I thought it was good. I like the aspect of where they were going with the character of Freddy Krueger. But overall, I mean, it wasn't a solid story. There definitely was some holes. So I kind of, I gave it an 8.
Yeah.
Just because of the imaginativeness of the idea behind Freddy and what he was and what he was doing. I like that. I just kind of agree with you. It wasn't executed as well as it could have been.
Yeah, it's definitely that imagination, that creativity that makes me give it an 8. You can't take that away from it. So next we move on to character development. I gave this a 5. I hate the fucking main character. And hating the main character, that's a bad move for this movie. Killing off the most likable character early on didn't work for me. This is him pulling his Scream before Scream, except it backfired. It does not work. I much would have rather have stayed with her. There is development, but it's more along the lines of just getting the story to move forward and less for the characters. And I pretty much hate almost all the characters. So, Kenneth.
I gave it a 6. I mean, there really wasn't a whole lot there. I mean, I give it the 6, and the reason why I didn't give it lower is because of the fact that the characters move the story along. But, I mean, they weren't the greatest in the world. I actually was more attached to the characters in the other movie. So it was like, I didn't give a shit whether they died. You know what I'm saying? So I would have gave it lower, but it moved the story along. So that's the reason why I kind of kept it at 6.
Fair enough. Jay.
All right, so I gave it an 8, and I gave it an 8 mostly because of Freddy and the story surrounding what the parents did to him. So her terrible acting aside, I do like Nancy's evolution as a character. I like that she goes from like this just helpless teenage girl to setting up fucking anti-personnel traps in her house and like telling everybody, she's like, all right, you stupid ass Johnny Depp, listen to me. I'm going to go fuck this guy up and I want you to help me do it. So I like that. I like her evolution as a character regardless of how she portrays it as an actress.
I've got to disagree there. I don't think she starts off as helpless. I don't ever see her as helpless.
Well, just an average teenage girl.
Like, I just don't see it as an evolution. I think she's quite the same person at the beginning of the movie as she is when she's fighting Freddy Krueger. I feel like she doesn't go through a character change. She just fights back, but it doesn't feel like she's fighting back because she developed some sense of courage. She's calling her mom out on bullshit early on in the movie. Like she's calling out her dad early on in the movie. She's calling out her boyfriend early on in the fucking movie. She has the courage early on in the movie to say, you know what? I believe my juvenile delinquent friend who's in jail right now.
I mean, she's got courage at the beginning of the movie.
Good point. But I can't alter my score, so
that's
I should have made those points in the last.
My bad.
I mean, she's even got courage at the beginning of the movie when, you know, Glenn's trying to get it with her and she fucking's like, nope, we're here for Tina, even though Tina's upstairs getting the shit fucked out of her.
That's because there's no way they're actually dating. That is the biggest bullshit of a relationship ever. I'm almost positive that at that point, Nancy was super into Tina and was only with Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp.
Part 2, her diary clearly shows that she wanted Depp's dick.
Yeah, but she even comes off lesbian-ish in the third one.
She is a lesbian. Get out of here.
I mean, straight up. I honestly 100% agree with Jerry's theory because it really does seem that way. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, you know, you could see that the way she fucking really spirals down the rabbit hole is not only based for her fear for Freddy, but at the same time, she's absolutely 100% distraught over losing the love of her life. I completely agree with Jerry.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, that's fair.
She probably wrote in her diary that she was into Glenn to throw off her parents who might be snooping. But no, she's into Tina, and that's why she's so into going and finding out who killed Tina and all this shit. Get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry. I apologize. We're into pacing and editing now, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I gave this a 6. I feel like the movie really starts to drag in the middle of it, and the ending is just a fucking confusing clusterfuck of a mess. So like it starts off really strong, then gets really slow, and then kind of ends in this weird combination of fast what the fuck is going on, but also kind of oddly slow as we watch a skeleton just kind of float slowly down in the bed and all this shit. I just don't like the pacing and editing of this movie. Jay.
I gave it an 8, but it sounds like I should have not given it an 8 after hearing the things you said. I don't know. I didn't feel like yeah, there are some parts where it's just like exposition on top of exposition, but I didn't feel like it slowed anything down to me. I still feel like the kills were spread out really well. And yeah, it didn't feel slow to me, regardless of. So I agree with your points. It just didn't feel like that affected it as much as it affected it.
How many people actually like die in this movie before her mom? Like Tina.
Her mom, I don't know.
Tina.
4.
I'm at 3. Her 3. Tina's
Rod, and Johnny.
Yeah, that's it.
Glenn.
That's a pretty low body count. And while I will agree, it is spread out. But
a lot of them are done in really, really grandiose fashion.
I'll give you that. We'll get to that soon. So I'll give you that. Kenneth.
I gave it a 5.
Okay, so you're more along the lines of me.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like, I agree with you. It started off real strong, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you got some great special effects with Tina's nightmare. We'll get into that in a minute. You got that part of it, and then, damn, she wakes up, you got the little part, and then the bam when she dies. But after that, I mean, it just kind of fucking slows down to a snail's crawl, man, where I'm sitting there, and it's like, don't get me wrong, there's some cool spots, but at the same time, I'm just like, fucking come on. Let's get going here. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that's one of those times where generally I'm all for the middle part of the movie being where, you know, you learn the backstory and everything else like that. But they did a fucking shitty job portraying it in the middle of this one.
I agree with you there. All right, let's get into atmosphere. I actually gave atmosphere an 8. If there's one thing that this movie does right, it is setting up that dreamlike atmosphere. In fact, the only reason I didn't give it a 10 is because sometimes that atmosphere that they do such a good job on does such a good job, I don't know what's a dream and what's real life. Now, to their credit, that is most likely what they were going for, but it usually will lead me into thinking about the rules of Freddy. And that when I do that, it takes me out of the movie and then loses some of its atmosphere for me. So it's a weird thing for me because what I applaud them for that they do with the atmosphere leads me to something that takes me out of the atmosphere. It's very odd. Kenneth.
I gave it an 8. I mean, I liked it a lot of the same reasons that you did. I mean, the feeling of the creepiness inside the dream world, you know, the darkness, the movements of things and the tone of how it looks, like especially when at the close to the beginning when Tina's having her nightmare and you see Freddy walking down the alleyway and they do that arm stretching out thing, which I'm kind of torn on. That the look of that was really creepy, and then the inside of the boiler room to me is fucking creepy as shit. So, and then also the when the scene happens where Tina's in the body bag in the hallway, you know, and fucking Nancy's looking at her, that was really fucking creepy. That, I mean, they did a good job at giving you that really just fucked up kind of feeling.
I agree. Jay.
I also gave it an 8. Pretty much, you guys hit it on the head.
Wow, we all three gave it an 8.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm as smart as you guys. Yeah, the dream sequences all really felt really like I can picture that stuff as being a nightmare that I would have. So it was easier to imagine that kind of stuff. I could see how the imagery used in the movie would be similar to imagery people see for real in their nightmares. So that, and then, yeah, that's just what else you guys said.
All right. We move on to scenery set design. I give this an 8 because there are multiple sets. All of them fit. All of them work. And unlike Friday the 13th, they actually do have to do some things with their sets and with their scenery that, you know, is a risk that could have looked bad, but they always work. So I have to give it an 8. I think the only thing that would have bumped it to a 10 is if we got to see some more imaginative dream worlds, where it is less realistic. Like, for instance, what we'll see coming up in part 3. That's where I feel like you get a lot of that crazy shit, but in this one it's much more down to earth because they had, you know, a much smaller budget and everything like that. But I think they do a good job of it. Jay.
Same thing. 8, just because it, like you said, the house is fucking iconic. That lasts through the whole series. But the boiler room set is really good. I'm sure it looked like they shot inside of a real school as opposed to building a school set, but just all the locations that they shot in looked like they were supposed to, and you felt like you were there. In the areas they were trying to portray.
Yeah. All right, Kenneth.
I gave it a 9. I thought the scenery and the sets were fucking great. I thought I think in this one, and this will kind of go in with the atmosphere a little bit, but I think that in this, it was a lot more of making me feel like I was there. You know what I'm saying? Like when I'm watching it, I feel like that I'm in a school. I feel like that I'm in what a real boiler room would feel like. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, you know, the thought process behind each one of these areas that they're at. And then also the set construction, where knowing what I know about the set where Tina got killed. I mean, that's just fucking cool. You know what I'm saying? Where they fucking build it and they spun it around. And that'll kind of go into my special effects. But, you know, knowing that about the set, I mean, that was just fucking rad to me. You know what I'm saying? And then there are other aspects of it, you know what I mean, that I just thought were cool, like the alleyway where he was walking at, you know what I'm saying, the front yard where he's kind of jumping out from behind shit when he's chasing Tina, all that shit together, man. I thought the scenery and the sets were perfect. They did a really good job of thinking of these different locations for what they were trying to accomplish.
All right, we go into acting. No surprise here, I give it a 5. And the only reason it even gets a 5 is because there are 2 good actors in this movie. And that is Robert Englund and John Saxton. Both of them do a good job. There are a few times where I don't like things that Freddy does because they don't work for me, but none of that has to do with his acting. Everyone else in this movie fucking sucks or is mediocre at best. Your main actress, Heather Langenkamp, as Nancy is just terrible. She is the reason that I don't like this movie, that I've never been able to get into it, and I deplore her acting every chance I get. She does get better in A New Nightmare, and a little bit better in 3, but as for this movie, fucking thumbs down, man. Kenneth.
I gave it a 7, and the only reason why I got a hand job out of it, man, is just because of the same fact, because of John Saxon and Robert Englund. That was it. And I agree with you. I gave a 5 to the rest of the other actors. You know what I'm saying? Because damn, I didn't, and for Johnny Depp to have went as far as he has went, and this to be his stepping stone, I didn't even care for his. You know what I'm saying? I just didn't like it. And then on top of that, the dude that plays Rod's attempt to impersonate a Italian guy, which unfortunately they had to do that for him, which sucks. But him having to impersonate an Italian guy did a shitty job. You know what I'm saying? And overall, I just thought it was. I thought that the acting was terrible outside of those two.
Yeah, Jay.
I gave it a 6, but for the same reason you guys did. Robert Englund, John Saxon, both great actors. Both brought their A game for this. Everyone else was kind of like, okay, you're here.
And you messaged me the other day and told me you can no longer ignore that Nancy has her mouth open the whole movie because of me pointing it out.
Yep, and then I looked at it, I was like, God damn it, she does. Every fucking scene, even when she's talking, she doesn't close her mouth. She's like, I wish I could show you a video of me talking right now, because she's like, I want to go to school, and like her lips don't ever fucking meet. Like, what are you doing?
I think she's hot. So
why would I even allow this? There's better acting in fucking Last House on the Left. How did you allow this?
Holy shit. Woo! Wow. Fuck me. Alright, special effects. God damn, that was good, Jay. Special effects. I gave this a 7, and I know it's going to be a little bit controversial, because to me it's mixed. There are 2 that are done well, perfect, 10 out of 10s. And that is, of course, Tina's death scene and Johnny Death's death scene. Well, okay. Tina's death scene, once she hits the ceiling, I still maintain the slashes on her stomach look fucking awful. Johnny Depp's death scene was fantastic. Special effects done, fantastic. But most of the other kills in the movie and things that pertain to special effects, like the marshmallow stairs, I don't like. I fucking hate the Stretch Armstrong Freddy Krueger scene. Him with his arms all stretched out walking down there. It looks so fucking fake. It looks terrible. I don't see how people like that scene. It's awful. I just do not. I think all the special effects went into 2 scenes, and then the rest were mediocre at best. So I really only give it a 7 because most of them fall flat for me. Jay, go ahead.
All right, I gave it a 9. I gave it a 9 because the special effects are not just the kills. We have those 2 amazing kills that you already mentioned. The Rod getting hung by his sheets. Still kind of like, it's kind of cool that they were able to do it practically to make it look like the sheet was moving on its own, but still kind of However, special effects are not just the kills. We've got Robert Englund's makeup, which I personally think is fantastic. I like the marshmallow stairs. I feel like that's something where...
That's because you want to eat the marshmallows. Get the fuck out of here.
I don't even like marshmallows, actually, as a food.
Never mind. That joke didn't work.
But no, like, if you're having a dream about running away from someone, that's absolutely something that could happen. And I thought it was done well enough.
If I'm going to talk about, like, dreams and marshmallows, I'm going to somehow find a way to just tie it into Ghostbusters and go that route.
That's fair. But I'm just saying, it didn't bother me. I didn't like her mom's death at the end. I thought it just looked silly and it didn't make any sense within the realm of the story. I didn't really have a problem with. I can see how the arms would be silly, but I can also see how, from the perspective of the character, him making it so you can't run past him because he's blocked off your escape is terrifying. So kind of a double edge, but that's why it's not a perfect 10 for me. So that's why I gave it a 9.
All right, Kenneth.
I gave it a 9. I thought Robert Englund's makeup looked fucking superb. Especially for the times, what they were going for, you know what I'm saying? I mean, to make him look like he was a pepperoni pizza, you know what I'm saying? I think it looked fantastic. I thought that looked great. The spinning, like I said earlier, the spinning of the fucking room to do Tina's death scene and to do Johnny Depp's death scene I thought those were amazing. And then on top of that, for Johnny Depp's death scene, damn, when you get electrocuted for the special effects, I mean, come on. You know what I'm saying? And people got electrocuted doing that. But the practical, going back to what he was saying about the sheet, I think that deserves more credit. Even though, he said the reason why I deserve credit because it was a practical effect to make it look like that. But I think it deserves more credit than that. Because for the time period, man, I thought it looked fantastic. And that genuinely was creepy. The stretch arms thing, I'm kind of in between on. Because it's like I can understand where they were going for it, but I kind of agree with you that it was poorly executed, But when the tearing of the face off, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where Tina leans up and rips his face off, and it's just weird. It's this weird fucking robotic, crazy looking skull up underneath.
That's why I don't like it, is because it looks robotic.
Yeah, see, I like that. I thought it looked cool because it's like it didn't look. It didn't look completely natural to me, and that's what I thought. That's the reason why I liked it.
But unfortunately for me, it not looking natural made it look fake.
Like I said, to each his own. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but those are the reasons why I gave it a 9.
Okay, I'll give
it
to y'all. I should have probably raised this to an 8 because I do feel like I did not take in Freddy's makeup. I should have given that more of its due. So in the future,
out since I was supposed to give it lower scores.
Yeah.
Some of the
so in the future, I will go up to an 8 on that. But with that, we move into kills and gore. I go in a 7 here because I really don't like. There's 2 kills you absolutely can't complain about. My problem is that they overshadow the other kills, but really, now that I think about it, there's not that many kills in here. So half your kills, well, a little under half, because there's 3 deaths you could say after those 2. Tina, delinquent, Johnny Depp, and drunk whore mother. It's those 4 deaths, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
2 of those deaths are absolutely fantastic. One is okay, and then the other one is awful. The problem is when I think about that, you only have 4 kills in this movie. That's it. And Tina's death scene, the kill isn't what's good. It's the special effect of her flying around. Her dying, she just gets cut up in all reality. Johnny Depp, I can't complain there. That's a fantastic fucking death. It's deathbed, the bed that eats, basically. It's great. The hanging, I think Kenneth swayed me a little bit more on that. Maybe I will go back and take a second look at that one and be like, you know what, maybe that's better than it should be. Either time the mom dies, both of them suck. While the skeleton floating down looks kind of cool, it's not like, it's kind of like an off-screen death. And then her going through the window death is also meh. So I really only give it a 7. Kenneth, go ahead.
I gave it a 9. And the reason why I gave them a 9 is because of the intensity of the kills. That's what I gave them the 9 for. Because in this one, to me, it's more based around terror than anything else. I mean, don't get me wrong. In Friday, you know, you got people getting chased around by somebody and they're trying not to get killed. But look at the differences between the two of them. I mean, if you look at, we'll take Tina's death scene for instance. Okay, she is getting played with by this killer that she cannot see, and her boyfriend is right there, within a foot of being able to reach her, and she's staring down at him and she wants his help and she cannot get it. She absolutely cannot get it. She's sitting there and she's reaching out for him, basically in her mind, screaming, pleading, wanting her boyfriend to help her, and he can't. And the next thing you know, she's getting slashed open, blood's going everywhere, she's getting spun around, and then she just drops into a pool of her own blood and she's dead. And then you go to Rod's kill scene, where he's sitting there, he's asleep, he's already been through the trauma of watching his old lady die, and then after that, he goes to jail, he's sitting in there and he's thinking to himself, he's all fucked up, he's thinking about, damn, what's going on and all the rest of this other shit, and the next thing you know, he's got a sheet wrapped around his neck, and it is crushing his neck, something else that he really cannot see. He just knows that he's about to die, and he can't do anything about it. And then the third one, the one that tops it all off, is Johnny Depp's death. The imaginativeness of that. Can you even fathom what that would be like, man? You're sitting there, you're laying there, and the next thing you know, you're fucking goddamn getting sucked down into your bed, and the thought, the thing that really gets me about his death that just makes it fucked up to me is the fact that you hear him scream for his mom. He screams for his mom and can't do nothing about it. And he just gets sucked down in it. All three of those are just fucked up and terrifying to think about it if you were in it. It's just, that's the reason why I got a 9. Because those deaths were so imaginative to me. Executed well or not, the imaginativeness of the kills was a fucking amazing. And it would have got a 10 if they hadn't have fucked up on the mom.
Okay, Jay?
I gave it a 9. I gave it a 9 because the category is kills and gore. And the amount of fucking fake blood for fucking Jack Sparrow's death was fantastic. And then watching her get cut up and dragged across the ceiling is iconic. It's fucking iconic. Both of those kills, even if those were the only two, are iconic. So yeah, the strangling was a little less pronounced, but like I said, I enjoyed the effect. And the mom was really stupid, which is probably the same as Kenneth White, doesn't get a 10. But those two kills alone are almost worth watching the movie, in my opinion. So that's why I gave them a 9.
Fair enough. All right, we move to Monster/Killer. I gave this a 7. Everyone knows I don't like Freddy. He doesn't work for me. Even in this movie, the bouncing between the goofiness and the scariness just has never worked for me. I don't like the arm long scene. I fucking hate the scene where he cuts off his fingers and he's got that fucking stupid fucking look on his face. Like, look at me. Look what I'm doing. I'm so fucking edgy. No, fuck you. I fucking hate that scene. Oh my God, that scene is almost as bad as any scene with Nancy and her mom together. Almost. So Freddy just never works for me. And him getting his ass kicked by Nancy this entire movie just makes me go, anyone who sits here and wants to tell me that Home Alone isn't realistic, fuck you, because this chick beat a dream demon with the same exact pranks that this kid beat 2 New York street thugs up with. So I give him a 7 because there are things I do like about him that I'm sure y'all will bring up, and there is an icon status to him, and I do believe credit's deserved here. When it's due, and the check's in the mail, so I give him a 7. Jay?
I gave him a 9. I gave him a 9 because he's iconic. I gave him a 9 because he's like super fucking creepy in this. the finger thing may not have worked for you, but can you imagine actually watching someone like we understand what he is. We're the spectators, but can you imagine actually watching someone where you have no idea what they are? It's this burnt dude chasing you, and then just to fuck with you, he starts cutting off appendages, and then they fucking regrow? That would freak me the fuck out if it was real life.
And the fucked up part about it is he don't care.
He's making his face looks like the same face the dude in Office Space makes when he goes, "Oh, I'm gonna show her my O face. Oh. That's what face he's making. It looks like the same face that a virgin makes when he jacks off to hentai.
I love that face. I'll make it quite
Either way, I think the idea of
the idea is fantastic.
Demon coming after you in your sleep, where most people can't make booby traps, is fantastic. I love almost everything about him.
All right, Kenneth.
I gave it a 9 also. I mean, his backstory, what he's doing, why he's doing it, the way he looks, everything that he's been through, all this shit. I mean, you know, as a monster, and then his icon status. I mean, the whole 9 as a monster. He's a great fucking monster. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there may be aspects about him that are, I guess, the way you put it, weak or ridiculous, but not near as bad as it gets down the rabbit hole later on in the series. You know, that's the one thing that I can give this one over others in the series, is that he is a lot more serious in this one, and it doesn't have as much, if barely any at all, of that extreme over the top bullshit that makes him seem like a cartoon character. And that's one of the aspects that I like about it. And then, you know, the anger that's portrayed by him in this one, as well as in the second one, is, I think, great in this one. So, I mean, as a monster, I give him a 9 in this one anyway. All
right. Hero. I give it a 4. Fuck Nancy. She's awful. Jay, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. She was so bad, it made me think wrong. It's Kenneth's turn. Go ahead, Kenneth.
I gave it a 6. I mean,
Jay, go ahead.
No, wait. I mean, even at that, you know what I'm saying? The only reason why she got a 6 was because of the booby traps at the end. Otherwise, I'd be like, my God, man, how come she didn't die at the beginning?
Okay, so I gave her a 7. I gave her a 7 because of all the reasons I stated in her character development that I liked, and then you guys pointed out that was all stupid. And so this is probably one of those scores that should be a list a little bit lower. So let's just pretend that this score is for her dad, who's a very good cop and a good father for the most part.
All right, I'm going to tell you where that's wrong.
Shut up! We're on to the score and soundtrack. Jerry, what'd you think about it?
Fuck. He did the transition, so I guess I won't explain why he's a bad cop and a bad dad.
I find her very attractive, so I
don't find her attractive at all.
You get to see her movies, and she's only 16, so that's nice.
No, you don't. That's a stunt double.
Yeah.
Her in the bathtub underwater, that is not her. It is another chick, though she is topless in another movie, so you can see her titties there.
Oh, well, they're not 16 in another movie.
Okay, that's true. All right,
that's
Weinstein.
Something that we didn't discuss, by the way. I think. Do you realize that throughout this whole thing, this is the first time that the bathtub scene has come up?
I forgot about the bathtub scene. That's a great scene.
I kind of did too, and it is a great scene. But you know, it shows how much we pay attention.
That's a good point. Score and
it's not
soundtrack,
a kill, so it just hasn't really come up.
I actually do have. It will come up here in a moment for me, in another section.
I see it right there.
Score and soundtrack. You know what? I give the score and soundtrack a 7. It works really well in this movie. I wouldn't be able to pick it out in a lineup, to use Jay's phrase from earlier, but it does work in the movie. I couldn't tell you much of it afterwards, but it works well in the movie. Jay.
I gave it an 8 just because it involves the 1, 2, Freddy's Coming for You nursery rhyme that has lasted the same. Thinking about it, though, after talking about what I gave Friday's score, they should probably have the same score since they both have one iconic thing that's carried through the entire series, and the rest of it is just kind of average for the movie.
Well, I will say I do like that Doom, or this, I can't even imitate it, but there's that, I guess it's the opening song when you see the shitty non-full screen opening credits. I do like the sound of that. Like, I do actually like the sound of the opening theme. But, yeah. All right, Kenneth, score soundtrack.
10.
Wow.
I gave it a 10. And not for the 1, 2, Freddy's Coming For You thing. That's cool, and it's iconic, and it goes all the way through the series, but that's not it. That off melody that is, and it's talked about in the damn in whatever that big ass fucking documentary is, Never Sleep Again. It's talked about in that, but that off melody is iconic to this movie, and it is in others, but for this one, I mean, it's just, to me, it fits perfectly. It's got a really weird, unnerving feeling, and then there's this other high pitched part that's kind of like. It's almost kind of like the high pitched thing for Psycho, but it's a little bit further in, and I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but even that right there, and it kind of ends with this really deep, like, I don't know if I could pull it up, or Jerry, you could throw it in, but to me it fit perfectly, and anytime I hear anything that even sounds remotely close to either that off melody or that weird high pitch thing, I automatically think about Nightmare on Elm Street.
Fair enough. We move on to scare factor. I gave it a 5 because anytime it really should be scary, it gets ruined by something dumb in the movie. But there is one scene that I do find terrifying. That's the bathtub scene. Because even when I'm in the shower and I'm washing my hair, and I have my eyes closed, it's kind of like the Psycho thing. Like, you just feel so vulnerable when you're naked in a bathtub. And to be pulled underwater in a bathtub where you know you should not be pulled underwater is actually terrifying to me. Almost every other scene with Freddy doing something scary does not work for me. But this scene works because it's just the claw, and it's just her getting dragged underwater, and it's so subtle. So it's the only thing in the movie that actually gets points from me, and that's why it actually got to come up to a 5. Kenneth.
I gave it an 8. And the reason why I gave it an 8 instead of a 10 is, to me, the most scary parts of the movie didn't have Freddy in them. The aspect of him was there, but him physically was not.
Was it watching Nancy act?
No. Like, take, for instance, Tina's death. How I talked about how terrifying it was and everything. The unfortunate part about that is that Freddy was not there himself. You know what I'm saying? The same thing with the bed.
It would have looked awful, though, if you would have been able to actually see him in the scene with Tina. I think it would have been awful.
Probably. I mean, I'm not saying it didn't work, but it was just like, I don't know. It's kind of like a cross between, I know how awesome the idea behind the kill was and how terrifying it would be to be in it, but being a spectator and watching it is something totally different. And it wasn't as scary being a spectator and watching it, if that makes sense.
Okay. Jay, scare factor.
Scare factor, I gave an 8 because, well, like I said earlier, there's not really any horror movies that scare me, per se. I can imagine being scared by these situations that's going on. Having somebody inside of your dreams that can actually physically hurt you, that you've seen and know killed your friends, that's a terrifying thought.
I just don't understand how you, in Friday the 13th, you're like, well, logically, I'm just not scared of it. But then with this, you're like, oh, yeah, I could totally see this.
That's because it's a realistic situation versus a fantasy situation.
And the realistic situation is not scarier to you?
Because it doesn't ever happen in real life.
What are you talking? Freddy Krueger could never happen in real life.
Exactly. That's why he's scarier.
Oh,
What?
I don't understand.
What?
I do not understand.
I don't get that either, man, because it's like, if you were to sit and listen to me and Jerry go back and forth about events that have happened in real life that is close to Friday the 13th, dude, we could riddle your brain for hours.
Like, to me, it's so much more. A movie like The Strangers is way more terrifying to me than, a movie like
The Strangers had better atmosphere
Dog Soldiers.
that made it scarier than
That's
something
like-
like Friday the 13th.
That's the reason why that movie Eden Lake fucked with me so bad. I don't know whether either one of y'all watched it, but
It's a great movie.
dude, that movie fucked with me hard for a few hours after I got done watching that, because that was
I don't
so
know.
fucking plausible.
I don't have a good brain. And
I'm not
sometimes
saying
I
you
make
don't
sense. I'm
have
just saying the Freddy situation, to me, is more scary than the Friday the 13th situation.
Wow.
Not
all
that
right.
either of them scared me, just overall. I don't know. Maybe it's the imagery. I don't know. I guess I don't really have good reasons, but that is...
I mean, whatever
That is
works
what it
for
is.
you at the end of the day.
Yeah. All right. We move into entertainment. I give it a 6. The movie starts really strong, but by the middle and the end of it, it just drags. But I do like the score. I do like the atmosphere. So I can't make it go lower than a 6. I tried and I just couldn't. I have to at least give it a 6. There are definitely way worse movies out there. Jay.
I gave it a 9, and this is kind of one of those subjects that kind of broaches the objective subjective thing, because entertainment, regardless of a quality of a movie from a technical aspect, is still a very personal thing, and I've always been entertained by this series, so I gave it a 9.
All right. Kenneth.
I gave it a 7.
Old trusted hand job.
Yeah, because damn, when it really comes down to it, while there are moments of great imagery and so on and so forth, when it really comes down to it being overly entertained, you know what I'm saying? I've seen it so many fucking times that at this point, no, I'm not really entertained anymore. But because of how entertained I have been in the past, I kind of gave it a little bit of a bump up. But overall, I'm just kind of like, eh.
All right. Rewatchability, I gave it a 5 because I'd rather not. Kenneth.
Gave it a 6.
All
Again,
right.
because I've seen it so many motherfucking times, man.
Jay.
I gave it a 10. I watch this movie a lot. I'll watch it a lot more.
Fair enough. We move into our last category, pop culture. I had to give it a 9. Even though it really isn't until like the third movie that he gains the full humor he gets known for, it was still born here. There are parts in this movie where we clearly see him doing humor, and he is a character that is born in this movie. So because he has a little bit less of that goofy humor he will become known for, I only gave it a 9. Much like I only gave Friday the 13th a 9 because it didn't have the full Jason. So I gave it a 9. Jay.
I gave it a 10 for the same reasons I gave Friday the 13th a 10.
Fair enough.
An iconic birth of an iconic series with an iconic character, and it continues. And I mean, just the fact that we're doing this whole series of Horror Coliseum starring both of them proves that, I think. So I gave it a 10.
That's true. Kenneth.
I gave it a 10. It's Freddy Krueger, man. Beginning of the series, end of the series, remake, whatever it is, man, it's still Freddy Krueger. You know what I'm saying? And at any point in time, it's another one of those where you can go to just about anywhere and be like, mention the hat or the red and green sweater or the fucking, the glove, any of the rest of those things, man. You mention them and people know who it is. It's Freddy Krueger, no matter whether it's goddamn, the first one or the last one. So for being a fucking pop culture icon, Freddy Krueger is always going to be stapled in the horror genre, man. He always will, unless they just absolutely don't do anything and he fizzles out over the next 50 years, which I seriously doubt because hell, they're talking about doing another one now.
Yeah. I do want to clarify something, because I just thought about this. The difference in how I'm rating pop culture versus how y'all are rating pop culture. And I'm not saying my way is right and yours is wrong or anything like that.
Well, if you weren't, then you wouldn't bring it up, would you?
No, I just want to point it out because I want y'all's perspective on it. So, I'm judging the pop culture of this movie for this movie in the franchise and how it compares to what's known in the franchise. You know, so like how I said, like how Jason is not in the first Friday the 13th movie, and Freddy doesn't have his humor in this Nightmare on Elm Street movie, but those are two things that the series are known for.
So that's 100% fair. I actually plan on doing that going forward.
Okay.
But because these movies are the first in their series, they are responsible for the rest of the series, and I'm applying that to their pop culture status in addition to their relation to the rest of the movies in the series. So going forward, with the characters already established, I will change, like, just as an example, I haven't scored them or watched them yet, but Friday the 13th Part 3 will probably score higher in pop culture because it's the movie he gets his mask in, versus Friday the 13th Part 2.
Okay, fair enough.
So that's just going forward for the rest of the series, that's what I'm looking at. But for these two movies specifically, I am including the fact that they started these franchises.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
When it really comes down to it, you know what? I'll tell you what. I'll follow suit. I'll do the same thing for the rest of the movies, because I was actually thinking about that as you were saying it. I was just like, Jerry's got a fucking point. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like if we do it the way I've been doing it so far, hell, every fucking pop culture thing is going to be a 10 all the way down the line. So
that
you know
is exactly why I decided to do it this way, but I didn't, because I didn't want to affect y'all's scores. I didn't say anything.
All right. So from here on out, for the rest of the ones we'll do, I'll do pop culture status based on the movie as a whole versus, its icon status.
Yeah.
So that being based on when it came out, what it did for the series, everything else like that. So, because that puts, 3 and 4, like for Nightmare on Elm Street, that would put 3 and 4 higher on the totem pole than some of the others.
Yep. All right, so let's get our final scores for A Nightmare on Elm Street. I gave it a 97. Jay, what did you give it?
If my math is correct, it's 116.
And Kenneth?
117.
Wow, Kenneth rated it higher than Friday the 13th. Now, this is something I've always wanted to come up. Now, Kenneth, which one do you like better? Friday the 13th or A Nightmare on Elm Street, just from, like, your personal, like, you have to watch one right now. Which one are you watching?
It's hard because when it comes between these two heavy hitters, it's completely subjective with me to the time period in my life. Because I have went through time periods in my life where fucking damn Freddy Krueger was the high point. And then I have went through times in my life where damn Jason was the high point. So it's very difficult for me to answer that question. But just going based on my current experiences with both movies, watching them for the podcast, I would have to choose Friday the 13th.
Interesting. See, that's one of the things that's interesting about the Horror Coliseum idea, is that even though it only beat Friday the 13th by 1 point from a technical aspect, Nightmare on Elm Street beat Friday the 13th, even though if it came down to which one he would rather watch right now, Friday the 13th would win. That is one of the interesting things for me.
So, you want something else?
What?
If I had to rewatch one of the two right now, I'd probably pick Friday the 13th too. But that's based solely on the fact that I've watched Nightmare way more times than I've watched the first Friday.
Here's another idea for you, okay? Maybe we'll do this going forward. You have to remove one of these movies forever. You can never watch it again. Which one do you remove?
Oh, well then I'm going to go with the one I like the least, and that's going to be Friday.
Yeah,
same thing. I probably would remove Friday the 13th also.
I would remove Nightmare on Elm Street, but
we know, Jerry. We've known for the last year when you bring it up every fucking podcast.
But it's very interesting. So for me, Friday the 13th won 115 to 97. For Jay, Friday the 13th won 118 to 116, and for Kenneth, Nightmare on Elm Street won 117 to 116. Y'all were so close.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, we'll see what got mine. You know what I'm saying? What took Nightmare up that point was when it comes
effects.
Well, not just special effects. I mean, you look at the special effects and the kills and the monster. Okay, all three of those got a 9 out of me versus Friday the 13th, which got a 7, an 8, and a 7. So those three right there were 9s across the board. So in that aspect, damn, those are the ones that that I think really tipped the scale in comparison to my other scores, because like the score and the pop culture were both 10s. You know what I'm saying? The rewatchability was both 1 point against each other. You know what I'm saying? The entertainment factor for Friday the 13th was higher than Nightmare on Elm Street. So, but those three right there were the turners right there.
It really is interesting. And it's really interesting going through these, and as you're talking about them, going, oh man, I wish I could change this score to this because they made a good point, and I was wrong. Like, I need to tweak this. That is also one of the interesting things about doing this.
Yeah, I really wasn't expecting to go into my, hardcore thing about the kills when it comes to Nightmare on Elm Street, because I did kind of go off in a little bit of a rant on that one.
Yeah, but
it was a little intense.
With that being said, round 1 goes to Friday the 13th. It wins 2-1. So
dun, dun, dun.
That'll be interesting. It'll be even interesting on the rest of the episodes, because here's the thing. We have a special guest for every episode going forward. As long as nothing changes and no one has to back out or anything like that. It may change. You never know. But for the most part, we do actually have people lined up for each show. And it may come down to 2 out of 2. And if that happens, we'll add all the scores up and see who has the most points and do it that way.
It's a good way to tie break.
But I will go ahead and announce who will hopefully be on every show going forward. So the next show, Friday the 13th Part 2 versus Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, will be Alex Edwards. You recently heard him on the Sleepaway Camp versus the Burning Show.
Isn't that the favorite in both series for him?
It is his favorite for both franchises.
Oh.
That is why I asked him to be on for that one, because I thought it would be so interesting. Friday the 13th Part 3 versus Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 will have 10 out of 10 Derek, who you have heard on Cinema Attack and on Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space Podcast. Friday the 13th Part 4 versus A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 will have Brian M. Sammons from the ABCs of Hidden Horror. Friday the 13th Part 5 versus A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5 will have Scott Crawford from the Podcast by the Cemetery. Friday the 13th Part 6 versus A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6 will have Jerry Cortez, a.k.a. Mr. Venom, from Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space. Beneath the Zenith, Evil episodes present just the movies, Rad Radio, all kinds of shit. Friday the 13th Part 7 versus A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 7, which is a new nightmare, will have your favorite. And to back you up, I'm bringing on Brandon Orlick from Exploding Heads, a.k.a. the new Brandon, because it's also his favorite Friday the 13th movie.
That's both of my favorites.
Oh, both of your favorites from the series? Oh,
dun dun dun!
Shit. I don't have to do that, though I do really like Friday 2 and Nightmare 2. Nightmare 2 being the only one in the series I like. So that'll be very interesting for me, but I don't have to have a super hardcore battle here. And then, of course, the last episode, which is the Friday the 13th remake versus a Nightmare on Elm Street remake, we will have JP from 22 Shots joining us for that one. So we've got a full lineup. Hopefully they will all make it. If they don't make it, don't worry. We will go on by ourselves if we have to, because this is one that we just have to keep going forward. But hopefully we will have all those guests going forward. And we will, of course, see who ends up taking this in the long run. Friday the 13th versus Nightmare on Elm Street. We will see what movies we would remove if we had to, gun to our head. And next week, I think we get into one of the most vicious battles of this whole series. Because to me, I think these two are definitely on par with each other. Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Friday the 13th Part 2. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 is my favorite of the series. And Friday the 13th Part 2 is often my number 2 favorite for the Friday series. So it's going to be a tough one. I don't know where it's going to land. Are y'all excited about that one?
I'm excited about watching all of these movies over again.
I'm curious, while we got JP, for when we're doing the last one, while we got JP, right after we get done recording that, we should do Frozen.
Or just do a double episode?
Yeah.
We're going to do Frozen. I'm just going to wait until it's colder outside. But by the time we're doing that...
It's cold outside.
Hey, don't you bring up rapey songs here.
That's my favorite song about rape.
Mine is...
my second favorite is Nirvana.
My favorite is that song from Aladdin. I Can Show You the World. I'm pretty positive that is basically just the Arabian version of It's Cold Outside.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So let us know who you picked. Let us know how you scored these categories. I can't believe we got this done in under 2 hours. I'm pretty excited about that. But to be fair, these are not as hard as some of our other ones because we know these movies so well. It's so easy to just go bam, bam, bam. And there's a lot of these categories. We were all just on the same wavelength.
That's true.
So it was pretty dope. I had a really fun time. You can check us out on youtube.com/KillTheCast. You can check us out on Twitter @KillTheCast.
Yeah, Jerry's been putting in work with that Twitter, man.
I have been putting work on that Twitter.
Every time I try and add to it, like my shit goes unnoticed, and then your stuff's like, oh, look at all these shares and hearts and shit.
Yeah, man, I am out there just fucking rocking it. I am posting good shit. I am on it. I've been really enjoying the Twitter thing. We are also on Facebook as a page and a group. Please join our group. We have
talk about horror and shit with us.
We have a long-running tournament going on right now called the 13 Years of Horror Remakes, and we're getting close to finishing out the first round, where we will move on to the second round to see who the winners of the first round get eliminated and see who's going to go in the second one. It's going to be dope. So definitely check that out. And with that being said, we also have a Patreon, which hopefully Patreon gets their shit fixed because fucking they had some issue with something, and like basically everyone's debits and credit cards got declined. So basically just no one, mine didn't either. But you know what? We were supposed to get $18 from Patreon. Do you want to know how much we got?
18 cents.
We got $5 rounded up. We got $5 rounded up, which is out of the 18 that we were supposed to get.
I know exactly what happened if you want me to.
Oh no, I know. I've already read the whole thing that Patreon sent me an email and all that and whatever.
Well, one of the people that I subscribe to sent me a thing saying exactly what happened.
Yeah, I had Movie Crypt send me a thing telling me what happened also.
I had London Andrews send me a thing that what happened.
I'm not on Patreon.
So, yeah, nonetheless, it's whatever. Patreon is just kind of like a little bit of extra money that goes towards like buying a movie we're all going to review or
hosting fees.
Hosting fees, because we do pay to host our own stuff. It mostly goes into hosting
Jerry's
fees.
pocket.
my pocket because
That's
I
where it
paid.
should go.
I paid for the hosting fees, and so Patreon just basically repays me for the money I put into that, and then me paying for editing software and all that shit. But either way, we thank everyone, whether you're just listening, whether you're liking and sharing on Facebook or Twitter. If you have a Kill the Cast shirt that you can get online, we have links for that in the description. Or if you are on Patreon, you're the best. You're part of the cast, and we're probably going to kill you. But that's
True.
just
Adam Green
how
told
it
us
goes.
to.
Yeah. So, thank you all for joining us. Next episode, maybe the next Horror Coliseum, but it might also, while we're doing the Horror Coliseum, so that we do not get burned out, we will be putting episodes in between. So, like regular fun episodes. Like Brain Scan, that's coming up. That will probably happen after Horror Coliseum, Freddy vs. Jason Part 2. But we'll probably have some kind of fun episode that we're just going to do to throw out there, kind of like our Halloween 3 episode, which was filled with tangents and a blast. With that being said, thank you all. Drink your sweet tea. Tell your loved ones that Heather Langenkamp is a terrible actress.
No, Heather, if you're listening, it's just this movie. That's it. You're better than that. You know it. I know it. Call me.
Solid 7. Another hand job.
No, you are not. Not in my book. I've got nothing against you personally. I think you were fantastic in A New Nightmare, actually. But you know, you were young. And I give the same shit to Kit Harington in the first 2 seasons of Game of Thrones because he always has his mouth open too. I gave him shit also, so don't. And I love him, so don't take offense to it or think you're special for that matter. Who do you?
Which
think
one
you
was he?
Jon Snow.
Oh, okay.
If you go back and watch the first 2 seasons, he has slack jaw constantly. His mouth is always open.
Until it happened, the only thing that I could think of throughout the first few seasons of Game of Thrones was, when is Joffrey going to die?
Pretty much. But we won't go into that because we don't want any spoilers for Game of Thrones because we're eventually going to stop this and just do a Game of Thrones podcast because that's the way to get famous. So that's it, guys. Also, check out Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space if you're into Godzilla goodness. We just dropped an episode on Yogg, Monster from Space, aka Space Amoeba, and our next episode is going to be on Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah from the 90s. So get ready for time travel, androids, dinosaurs in the war, and fucking Mecha King Ghidorah.
Well, when you do Final Wars, I'll come and I'll talk.
I will bring you on for Final Wars, Jay. You heard it here. Jay will come on and do Final Wars.
Yeah, because that's like Power Rangers mixed with Godzilla.
It really is. So, that's it for us, guys. We are out of here. See you next time. I've already pimped out all the shit. Guys, do y'all have any final words? Jay, any final words?
I love you guys. Thanks for listening. Sonic Fox won the Dragon Ball Fighters finals. He's a furry, so he's American, so that's good. So yay, America. Sorry that.
You know what's funny? I was just talking earlier on my the Puppet Master Louis Reich thing. I was talking about if Nazis were here today, what groups they would kill, and I said it would either be furries or juggalos.
It would definitely be furries.
They are so that's funny that you say that. Kenneth, any parting words for the dead?
I want to come too.